I'll give you a little intro on me, and then I want to learn a little bit more about
Uh,
your production. That'd be
yeah,
great.
just okay. So welcome to this second episode of Indie Media Hustle. We have an exciting guest today, Nick Harty from New York. Floor is yours, Nick. Who is Nick? Introduce yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Nick Harty. I'm a founder and filmmaker from New York, working on a production management software called Storyara. And I can just go straight into that. I've been making short films for as long as I can remember. It started in sixth grade with one of those dowel rod lightsaber films. It was me and my brother duking it out in the front yard. Um, and I would say we've got a bit more narrative since then.
Yeah.
Yeah, so how did I get into production management software? I'm a filmmaker, I'm a DP, I'm an editor. Like how does one go into this? Because it can be quite challenging. And I think, a lot of it came from the problems we were facing on set. When we were shooting our short about a year ago, we kept running into the same problems, but like it was really production hell. It was like, spreadsheet after spreadsheet, coordination was falling apart. We were honestly having a really tough time with it. But we powered through. Who cares? The film got made. But at the very end of that, me and my producer were at the Cannes Film Festival this summer, and having that in the back of our heads and seeing that the whole festival was basically about AI, but like the wrong type of AI, like the AI that like replaces your entire creative output. Um, it frustrated us, but it also inspired us to create our own platform that doesn't use AI to take away from the creative process, but rather accelerates the stuff that filmmakers don't want to do, right? The intermediate coordination. And so 6 hours later and a couple French espressos, I had like a prototype up and running, where you upload a script and it breaks it down for you, takes all the props, wardrobe, locations, and characters from the script and gives you superpowers as far as scheduling the entire shoot. On top of that, it can really do a bang up job at getting some of those basic line items that you're going to need to build a rudimentary budget. Our whole philosophy is like if we can get you 95% of the way there, like within the first 10 minutes, that's a lot better than 0% of the way there and having to spend weeks and weeks before you can even step on set. And so it's been roughly 6 months since then, and we've just been building, onboarding production companies, working with small creators, and really trying to expand this platform to be a big tent, to be everybody, because everyone deserves great production software. And the more films we can make, honestly, in this day and age at a much lower cost, the better.
Wow, well, that's a great thing. If you look at the back, when was the first time you had a thought that, hey, I would like to make a movies? When was this?
Shoot, you know what? People should ask this question more. Like, I honestly like it's honestly probably one of my favorite questions asked from directors, because it provides such insight into like where they got their knack for storytelling. But I think when I was inspired to make movies, I I didn't watch a lot of the great movies until much later in my life. Like towards the end of high school, early college, just trying to absorb as much as I could. I was really into like VFX heavy fantasy stuff. Like I was like obsessed with Indiana Jones and Star Wars and Star Trek. My mom put me onto the original series, and I watched like the whole thing on Netflix. Um, I was really into that. I was also really into like witty dialogue, like Sorkin type stuff. I watched like all of West Wing 3 to 4 times. Like I was just obsessed with it. And so I think that's where I really leaned into early filmmaking. I liked stories that um both leaned into the unreal, the hyper realistic, right? Like this is a photo I took right in the background of me right now.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
And I don't know if they can see it or not, but it's essentially of New York, and it's very bright and vibrant colors, very extremely deep blues and extremely warm oranges and reds. And I think like that's been my entire philosophy in film is like I think we should lean into the hyper realism. I think film should bring us to a world that we can't experience in the everyday. And over time, I've achieved that more through like color grading and building interesting plot structures as opposed to like, cheap VFX. Um, but yeah, I think that's where I started, and honestly, it's a through line to where I am today.
Wow, wow, cool. So, what was your very first project? What you did? Can you tell us about that? It's always fun to remember.
I can dive into it a little bit. Yeah. I mentioned it earlier, but I made a lightsaber film with my brother. I don't remember how this came to be. I Let me remember. Okay. Yeah, yeah. I think we had just watched like all of the Star Wars movies. Um, it's funny. I watched all the Star Trek like original series and all the original movies before I watched Star Wars, which is probably like so backwards for a lot of kids. But at least I watched Star Wars in the right order. I watched it four, five, six, and then one, two, three. But I think the odd thing for many viewers is that I watched it to lead up to Force Awakens, which is which is pretty funny. Like I don't know, like we thought that was going to be such a huge movie in 2015, and it really didn't pan out. But it encouraged me to watch all the original movies, which was great. Um, I guess it's also strange that like I consider the prequels original too, but I mean honestly maybe that dates me a little bit, but that I mean they came out like a decade before I saw Force Awakens. So at that point it was already 10 years old. Crazy. I mean a lot of people don't even consider those part of the original trilogy. I'm just nerding out now. So I'd watched the Revenge of the Sith, right? And I got all the way through the entire the six movies, and me and my brother were like, you know like we were always like bickering with each other, and like we're so different, but like we have like this playful banter, and we were like why don't we like recreate this to some extent, and we never actually thought to shoot it like at the beginning. I think we grew up in Florida, so we took like pool noodles and cut them in half and then put like black duct tape on one end of them, and we would just fight out in the pool like it was lightsabers. But then at some point I think possibly inspired by my dad's old films he showed me back from like the 80s with his friend Rob. I was pretty inspired by that to just go out and shoot something and see if I could, do some sort of lightsaber thing on my own. I think I'd also seen this documentary about how they originally did lightsabers. It's some sort of like a reflective beam that they would shine light on in the original movies. I believe in the first three. And then they would go in and paint over later. And so I was like, there's got to be an easy way to do this in the modern era. And there was. The software was just really expensive, so I questionably got it.
Yeah.
Um, I now pay full price, but yeah, no, all those things like culminated together, and um, I remember like trying to follow a tutorial on like how to make a lightsaber in After Effects, which is so funny looking back because it's literally the easiest thing you can do in After Effects. You just download like this plugin and track it with keyframes. I'm sure you like AI can do it now, which is like
Yeah.
stupid, but no, actually it's really cool. I wish I had it back then because I could have just clicked one button. I had to go each keyframe if you know the pain of an editor and like
Yeah.
do every single one, and it ended up being really jittery and it just bothered me. But I literally shot that sequence because I needed like footage to edit. Because the guy who I was following the tutorial of didn't link like the original video of him with like the dowel rod or whatever. So I went on this like whole tirade where I like dragged my parents out to like Home Depot, and we bought like dowel rods and like pipe fitters for the handle, and I set the whole thing up, and my brother was like really not he didn't really want to do it because we looked really stupid in the front yard, just like battling each other with these sticks with like little reflector things on them so I could track them later. But I think he was pretty um um intrigued at the end result. And in just shooting that, sort of just to be like test footage for something I could edit later. Like I started to pick up a little bit on like how you actually shoot a film. Because like when you turn the camera on and you're like, wait, this is only going to be one angle, and it's just kind of like an establishing shot, and like this isn't really interesting. Like you can't just show this for like 2 minutes. Like there's no tension, there's no battle. And so I was just like, okay, like what if I did a close up of like me holding the lightsaber like up to here, and then we did a close up of you, um, not knowing that's also how you shoot like most of dialogue. Um, and I think that's honestly where I got my start as a DP, just kind of like, like finding this inner desire within me to be like, okay, we can't make this movie like super boring.
Yeah.
Let's add a little bit more of dynamic shots here. And I think that's eventually evolved into today, where somebody will where we'll be planning out a scene we've originally planned for like just a two shot of like each individual character close up and then an establishing. And then on set I'll be like, well, we should really do this one slightly lower because everyone's seen this shot a million times. What's a way we can do it better? Or like when he pulls the suit off the rack, let's start on the suit and then motion over here. Um, at least to like, freshen up the frame. The whole scene, it's 2 minutes. It can't be just a two shot. We're switching in between.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it comes from like, literally just being like, oh, this is boring. Let's do something new.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what about if you take a look at the very first project and then the next ones? What was the biggest, uh, let's say, troublemaker during the first one? Okay, afterwards, when you took a look at, okay, what we did and how we did it, oh my God, okay, I'm not gonna do that again. Was there such a things? Uh, okay, oh, that was absolutely terrible. you
Oh, no, totally. You know what's so interesting? Like this is like the like what's your biggest challenge question. I've always had trouble answering this because like yeah, I faced a lot of challenges, but I don't like think about them. Like I just like
yeah.
I just fix and resolve them. Like dude, it's just different. But if I really think about it, I can probably come up with that. I think in the original like lightsaber film we did. I mean, early on, I started to see signs of like, okay, coordination is annoying just because like my brother didn't want to do it. Um, and I think back then a lot of my challenges were literally just like me figuring out how to do like camera positioning and then also like dealing with like how awkward filmmaking actually is. Especially
yeah.
when you're shooting like by yourself, like you don't have a crew like play off of like when you're directing a film that you're also in and there's also no cameraman, like you're just consistently moving around a tripod. Meanwhile, maybe directing the other person who's in the movie with you to like pick up the camera for some close-up shots of you and then position it, and they have no clue what's going on. So you gotta be like, no, here, here. Like it's a like initial like basic struggles. Hardest part of that movie was making the lightsabers because I was just such a perfectionist on like building the specific prop. And then I went in the edit and I was like, you can't even really see the handle. This is stupid. Um, so that didn't really pan off. Later on, like in the latest film we shot, which is the blue suit, it's a short about this is the best log line ever, actually. It's a short about a kid who finds a blue suit in a thrift store, and then we walk back through through every single previous owner of that blue suit and how it's comforted them in their harrowing times, in their struggles. And the toughest challenge in that film and all of our recent films is coordination. It's like how do we get
Yeah.
everyone in the same spot at the same time, with all the equipment lined up, and ultimately get to that shoot, right? It's a process that like if it was optimal should honestly take not much more than a day because people know their schedules in advance. And we know when we can get the equipment. But the annoying part is like honestly just like sitting down and doing it and spending like the 3 to 4 hours just like getting everyone in the right place. It's why you honestly have to have like an incredible producer or like in a slightly larger production line producer. And I mean that's honestly what we set out to solve with this film with Story R. We used it on the our recent film, Blue Suit. Um,
Mm.
it's been incredible. I mean, seriously, like it's massively sped up the process. I'm not just trying to sell it. If it didn't work, like we wouldn't be using it. I always joke that like if no one else uses this platform, at least we don't have to deal with this anymore. So it's pretty cool. The most helpful part for us was like it layers all the availability onto one screen, so it shows in the green like where everything is available, and you can just schedule your shots under there, and it automatically fills in the call sheets. That's honestly been the most helpful part. The biggest challenge outside of coordination for this film is oddly enough. there's a final scene in this movie where we pan in on a sheep on an Italian hillside, and it's kind of like this allusion to like where the suit originally came from. Sorry, it isn't kind of like it is. Um, and honestly, finding that sheep has been like the pain of the last 2 weeks. And I keep saying, like, in retrospect, this is going to be so funny. But in the short
Mm.
term, like, it is so annoying for something that we're literally just going to go. The
Mm.
shot is arguably like 3 to 4 seconds. Like, it's not
Yeah,
long.
yeah,
I'm actually trying to figure out how to make the shot more complicated because we're spending so much time trying to find this sheep and like get the permit for it. Like, anyway, I just thought I'd share that. It's pretty funny.
yeah, yeah. So, what was the biggest surprise or surprises what you came across during those, especially the first one or the next ones? That whoa, I didn't expect that. Was there any?
Um, biggest like surprise. I mean, I think it's a shift, right? It's like I think a lot of filmmakers undergo this. Like I mean, yeah, I told you a story about my first film, first like kind of film project. Um, it's a shift from like, being an editor and understanding how films are saved in the back end. Like that every great editor knows, yeah, the film is made in the edit, right? I mean, you know, it takes a damn good DP and an incredible writer to get to that point, and an incredible director, of course. But like, there is no film until the editor puts it together. That builds the entire narrative structure. But I think going from that point, starting there, really, I mean, really, what I was focusing on was editing, and then a little bit of like what a DP does, and then moving into like writing satires, writing comedies, like leaning into more of like what SNL does and doing skits like that. Um, Learning more about dynamic dialogue and how you can cut back and forth and make it funny. You can use edits for ultimately comedy. Um, which is interesting because like I sort of went against the grain in some sense. Like people were at the time that I was like doing a lot of those skits were like doing the same thing, but like on TikTok and in shorter form and optimizing for views and continued engagement. And I wasn't as interested in that. I was still interested in like the 5 minute horizontal format. Where you get a little bit more time to create those kinds of posits. To this day, I still don't know how people do like the vertical format, like optimize. Like I have to do some of that for story art, and I find it like really annoying to do. Like
Mm.
I don't know. I don't know. I understand how people do it. Like I don't like that kind of editing. I like having time, space. I like structuring pacing.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, I mean that's really the shift. It's the shift from being an editor, understanding how film is made in the edit, understanding pacing, and then slowly walking my way back to mastering the other roles through directing. Um,
yeah,
to ultimately end up where I am today, which is a director editor. I can't imagine making a film any other way. Like I
yeah,
need to be directing shots, and then I also need to know how to edit them. And sure, I think like maybe I could hire an editor, but at the end of the day, like I don't know. There's something. I need to know how the film is going to be edited while I'm on set. I have to be thinking about that. Like,
mm.
and that's why I think um, having a director editor like that on a film is insanely crucial. Like, it's you can see the difference between when you have a director editor and when you have like traditional direction, and then it's sort of like made up in post.
Yeah,
Um, there's a much finer through line. The struggle there is where like the director editor drops, or there's a conflict between what the DP thinks the film should be and what the editor thinks the film should be, um, which which is where you get a lot of issues. And then when you
yeah,
have a
yeah,
writer director editor, which is like insane, like I don't know how anyone does that job. Like
yeah. Very true. Yeah, because
I
that's
mean,
a.
I mean,
Mm.
yeah, both directing and editing a project is enough work alone. Like,
Yeah, yeah. I
I mean,
would say. Yeah,
if you add writing to that, we're talking like that's a decade of your life for one story. Like that's kind of
yeah,
a little wild.
yeah. Very true. Because I ended up wearing so many hats uh, during the pilot project. It was incredible. Okay, first, of course, there was a script writing process, and it was fun because I had a sheer luck that I bumped into really industry veteran in the first place, but he was already retired from his first career, which was art director, art designer, and then obviously he got bored after retiring. He was a BAFTA and Emmy winner, and Zumanzi, Friday the 13th, you name it, and but he was a very private person. He didn't brought that up. It took a long time that I even know because he knew that he was using a pen. But anyway, okay, I was very much part of the script writing process. But here's the thing: before we started, I picked up all the locations, so I was doing location scouting, locations managing. And I was a lead actor, driver, catering guy. Okay, well, we used the local pizzeria, all the time, stuff like that. But once we finished the filming and I started to rack up, okay, what did I do on this project? And I really start to get like a shakes that, oh shit, this was insane. Never ever do this again. Too much. And then it was a good learning curve. Okay, wear only two hats at the same time. Max, no, no more because it's terrible. It's terrible. Yeah.
You can just drive yourself insane, I think, right? I mean, like there's a certain amount of like embodiment you have to have with the characters in the story, right? And
Yeah.
I think I found my happy medium. I mean, I love to write too, and I think I do want to write, direct, and edit one film in my life. But especially when you're working on a feature, like, I think anything beyond that through line is complicated, right? Like, I take immense pride in telling people stories, which means like seeing it through from direction to editing, right? Like, I love that part. Um, to go the full circle is a little hard because you know you watch your story get devolved and exploited and ripped apart and then put back together, and I'm sure that's like an incredible journey. But it's got to be something that like you have such an investment in. And it almost has to be a personal story because
Yeah.
anyone who knows who makes a film, like even the editor has to find a way to embody themselves in the characters to understand how to play the dynamic between the cuts, right? Like how much to pace. Um, you have to move with the characters. You have to move with how they speak, right? Sometimes you gotta, make some stuff up because somebody decided to put their hand in a different spot on somebody's back in between shots, and you gotta, you gotta figure out where that connects. But to do that at every stage, you gotta love the characters. I think it's almost gotta be like biographical to some extent, or like the main character is similar to your mother or something, like that's where I could see you doing all of it like that. um Other than that, I think it's super hard to keep that kind of connection for so long.
Yeah, I think that I like that definition because um, even with the writing partner, it's uh, those characters in certain characters there's very much something from me, and then added from other people's I have known or I know, but so they become really this biographical thing. Yeah, I really buy it. Yeah, it becomes yeah, it's like a raising a baby.
But no, that
Something,
like
yeah.
that's a I mean I think it's I mean I don't know about raising a baby, but I believe
And
that's
then
a
you push
perfect
away.
example.
Yeah. And then you push it
Yeah.
away. Okay, go.
Okay, next one. Maybe not the perfect analogy, but like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
The thing I find so easy, like interesting about filmmaking too is like once you're done, you're done. Like I think people often um like put a bunch of glitz and glamour on like the after edit process, like the festivals, the
Yeah,
press, like and I haven't gone through like the worst of that. Um, but I've seen some of it, and I think God, I don't know if I speak for a lot of us, but like I just find the whole thing so disinteresting. Like I pretty much hand the movie off to our producer, and I'm like, you know, go do what you do. I immediately as soon as I'm done with the cut and I'm satisfied, I maybe watch the film like once, and then it's done. Like we're thinking about the next thing. Like
yeah,
I spend it's so funny. You spend so much time saturated for so long on a project, and then you're almost like disinterested in the output, or at least disinterested in the reaction to the output. Um,
yeah,
like I remember like we were hosting a screening for a short I did last year, and I went and I was just like I think I almost like fell asleep in the theater, which I never do on films. And the film is not bad. We got like a standing O, but like I didn't get much sleep that night either. But I mean, I think it just goes to show that it's hard. It's really hard to stay that committed to a story for that long. And I think by the time you're done with this process, it's like, okay, we made it. Like, and we're really satisfied by it, and it's 10 times better than the last time we did, right? Which you're always aiming to do, right? You're always aiming to one up in quality, in narrative, in editing style. It just needs to be completely different and 10x better than the last thing. Um, but then once you're done with that, you're interested in 10xing the next thing. Like it's like, well, great, the film is done, but there's so much left to be aspired to, right? Like we shot that scene, but in the edit, I realized, oh, shoot, I should have shot that a little differently. Or if we had that extra boom, you know, and that leaves a taste in your mouth where it's like, okay, like there's something else here that you don't get at the end of filming. When you're done with filming, you think, this is the best we can do, and then you get in the edit, and you're just like, oh shit, there's you know there's like
yeah,
16 other things we could do with this, but it's awesome because you keep going. Um,
yeah,
but I think people who aren't in it, they don't get that. They don't get the fact that like at least from what I can tell, like these directors are going to cons and these festivals and doing the circuit, and I'm sure they're so like lethargic about it. Like I'm sure they're just like they're there for the party. They're not as interested. You can tell in the interviews, like they're asked 100 times about like the same story, like to
yeah,
give like a basic description, and most of them like blank face, just what's a film about? It's like they're clearly not as excited as like the initial pitch that they had to give right to the studio.
yeah,
Um, and I think that's a testament to show that like in the back of their head they're thinking about like the current script they're pitching, the thing that just got greenlit, the next project they're so excited about.
yeah,
Um, it's kind of a cool difference between like how you sell film and also like the process of making it.
yeah. The way I see it, it takes enormous amount of energy, and because you basically forget about you don't count hours,
Hmm.
uh, how much you spend on it, and so yeah, when it's finally out, okay, oh god, thank you. So yeah, you want to move on, and uh, so let me ask you. Uh, I give a little background story. Yeah, I remember those. Not the films, but the recording myself for the some corporate things, and I it took quite a lot of work to come over that. Oh Jesus, it's terrible to watch yourself, but to hear yourself, it's
Oh no no
even
no no.
beyond. It's like, okay, uh, yeah, I wouldn't eat a liver casserole ever again. I did had to do it when I was a kid, but just God, I don't want to listen to my voice. Uh, and for me, it took. I don't remember, how. I had to watch the first film in so many little pieces. I just couldn't watch it. It was painstaking.
Yeah,
So
I
do
don't
you
act in
have?
my own films. I think
Yeah.
that'd be a little. I listen. I'm totally right there with you. Like, I'll be editing a film and I'll hear like the stage directions I give, or like me positioning a shot in the outtakes, and I just I can't. I immediately cut it. Like I'm just like get rid of this. Like let me like I can't. It'll bother me. I'm gonna be quite honest. I will not be listening back to this interview. This, I think I hope I've done a good job, but it's just like the
It was
notion of like
wonderful.
hearing myself, talk is like, me and my producer were just talking about the other day. We are like, I'll never understand how like people, um, even have like actors have the strength to go watch themselves at a premiere. Like I think that's crazy. Like because here's the thing, like you as an actor really have no power over the edit. Like especially if like you're doing like a backstage gig for like a short that makes it to a festival or something, like you have like zero power, like no authority. So you go on set, you perform, and I mean they can make you look like a monster. I mean,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
in theory. But besides that, and you have to. It's hard because like you get that memento forever. Like this is like I sympathize with like great actors who used to watch the old work because I don't know how I would do it. I have no clue. I'm so happy like most of my childhood and everything is not really recorded. I find it to be painful. I like the good moments like like or even the bad one. Like I like memorable things. Like if I watch an old video of me like winning a math team competition, like that's cool.
Mm,
But I think acting is such a spot where you're so vulnerable, and you're so not yourself, and you're so trying hard not to be yourself that like
mm,
when you watch it with the context of what actually happened behind the scenes, it's extremely cringeworthy. Like
yeah.
it's insane. I say this all the time. Whenever we start a film, I tell people this because like I think we've kind of normalized the whole thing, but like as you actually get on set, you start to realize it, and this is where you start to lose people. Like filmmaking is crazy. You like we are lunatics. We are insane. Like
Yeah.
I mean theater's crazy enough. Filmmaking's even nuttier
Yeah.
because at least there you can play off the audience and you can see like a reaction. I mean, we're playing dress up in front of an in um a non-living object. Like we have to convince a bunch of people to basically not be themselves, take time out of their day, leave their families, and come shoot fantasy nonsense with the hopes that like maybe a year or two from now, some kid will feel a little inspired by it. Is that not crazy? That's
Yeah. Yeah.
like in the modern. I know we've like normalized it, but it's insane. And so I start all my shoots with that. I start remember
Yeah.
we are doing something absolutely insane and crazy and wild. And right now it seems normal because everyone's getting upset, everyone's excited. But slowly through the shoot, you're going to realize like it is kind of insane. But the whole point is we have to keep the hope. Like we have to continue to feed into this delusion, right? It's
Mm,
it's it's um it's that idea of like the distortion field around you. A great director plays into this delusion, is obsessed, is enthralled with the story, and it lives and breathes in every part of the shoot. And that's the only way you can actually keep everybody on board in this crazy, wild Titanic of a journey.
yeah.
Um, I mean, and I think it's always important to remember that in film. Like what we're doing is insane. It's insane.
Yeah.
Um, and so the expectation that people should continue to be along that ride should never be taken for granted as a director.
Yeah. Yeah. And because one thing struck me, uh, I was full time therapist at the moment, and I got a Finnish actor, male actor, and
Uh-huh.
it was okay. He came, one year he came, early, maybe January, and he was preparing himself for the one role where it's really incredible and insane and hard. And he had to train at the gym like hell and get some muscles. He looked really, really like a lightweight power lifter, or Greco-Roman wrestler or something. He was really extremely fit. And 6 months later, he came again. What I saw is like a skeleton of a guy. And okay, and he told the story that okay, now on the next film, he's gonna be a what bass player or guitar player of a rock band. So that
Is
he's
is this
using the
Christian Bale?
drugs or something, and so he literally had to shrink himself from a from a healthy, lightly muscular body into skeleton. And he told me very frankly that, oh, this is terrible, and with this time frame, I don't want to do this anymore. He told it. And so yeah, actors can, depending on how they approach the role, how they prepare themselves, it's taken really, they become the character if they have a like a method kind of acting. I think many of listeners, audience, have heard stories about Nicolas Cage or
Yeah.
something, and legendary Al Pacino. He is like, who he has been playing. But really say like a Nicolas Cage, I don't remember movie, but he literally became like a part-time alky for the duration, preparing himself for some role. I don't remember what was it, but he hung around with the alcoholics, and he drank like hell, and that's okay. Who does that?
Are you sure he did that for the
Who does?
role, or
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was just
yeah.
how he was in the early 2000s and 90s? Like, I think,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
all respect to
that
Nick
was
Cage. I
yeah,
think,
that was a long
no,
time ago. That actually that actually reminds me, it's uh how the acting and the whole film industry has changed over the decades. Everybody can go to YouTube and seek stories about Peter O'Toole or Richard Harris and Richard Burton. That like, because those chaps, they grew up. They were born before World War II. So they were kids when World War II was happening, and which was of course terrible.
yeah.
What I remember, that I think it was well, one of them said on some interview that when the war was over, decided, okay, uh, anything can happen. We have just went through war, so we have to live each and every day like it would be the last one. So what they did, uh, they party like hell. They were drunk like hell, and I remember a story from Peter O'Toole and Richard Harris. They were signed for some pretty early stage on their career on some theater in England, and
Mhm.
there was a 10-15 minute section between the in the middle of the play where they didn't need to be on stage. So what they did, they ran out of the theater, across the road, and went to local pub to drink. And imagine that. And in one play, they forget themselves, telling stories and drinking, and somebody from theater ran because they knew that they buggers go to Bob. And that, okay, Tool, O'Toole, Harris, it's your turn. You have to be on stage. Come on, put your skates on. And first they finished the drinks, and then they ran across the road. And Harry, wait a minute, Harris went first, and he glided across the stage and fell into lap of some elderly madam, and everybody were quiet and said, and the madam said, "Oh my God, Harris is drunk." And Richard Harris raised his head, saying, "Wait till you see O'Toole." But imagine, okay, those were, completely different days. Nowadays, come on. You wouldn't get any job, any gigs anymore. Nobody would tolerate such a thing. But that's
Yeah.
interesting. How things have changed. Yeah.
No, I
What?
mean, for sure. I think like, you hear these like old stories about people on set and like people just getting absolutely coked out. Like I just watched the Mr. Scorsese documentary. I would advise everyone go watch that. It's on Netflix. I have no ties to it. I just think it's really cool, and it's
Yeah.
it's a really cool insight into like early filmmaking and how he like grew out of NYU. Any aspiring student filmmakers, by the way, like watch the film because like we you often get branded as like being a student filmmaker, but like Martin Scorsese was totally a student filmmaker. Okay, like a New York City native, like NYU, straight up the block. Like I think it's pretty inspiring.
Yeah.
Anyway, but
It is.
he talks about his struggles with Coke all the way through the 80s, and like it's just crazy. Like I have to work out like every day and maintain like optimal health for me to even have the energy to be on set. I
Yeah.
just I don't understand how like people would stay up like all night doing like the most heinous of Hollywood drugs
Mm.
and still I mean personally I don't know if I could have the energy to wake up the next day. I mean, maybe I don't know. Maybe there's some hidden secret there.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the only way they were able to do that during that time. Some people's vices, ultimately lead to some of the greatest work, but like at what cost? Um, but no, it's very fascinating, and you also wonder like how much of that still goes on today that we don't know about.
Yeah.
It's also quite a shame. What is acceptable? I think on the actor side, it's gotten a lot more strict. Um,
Mm.
is what you can get away with. I'm sure it's like as an A-list a star. I haven't really experienced this as a director, like having an actor who is clearly going through something, and I have to direct them beyond that. Thankfully, but I'm sure there's Charlie Sheen like environments
Yeah.
um, where people struggle and credence to great directors, right? Like, or honestly, great crews when it's the director themselves in the case of Mr. Scorsese. But it's like ultimately motioning people and the best way I can put it, using that time in their life to tell a really interesting story that can have a profound impact.
Yeah.
um, to call it method acting. But sometimes it can be powerful to channel people's external struggles onto the screen in hopes of moving the needle just a little bit. And I think that's kind of a fine line that like I find fascinating about film. Is it like, how do you and I hope I never like run into this, and I think it can be terrible, but it's like how do you some extent um uh, exploit or depict somebody's internal struggles and transition that to the screen in a way that feeds more into the character. How do you use those struggles that they're going through to influence the character, to change it from what was originally on the page? I find that to be incredibly fascinating. It just goes back into the idea of like the film really comes together in the edit. The editor gets to see that huge landscape. They get to see the outtakes. They get to see the tear, the red lines in an actor's eyes when they really shouldn't be, that changes the complete message of the story. And I think it's so interesting. It can be so dark. Um,
Yeah,
but I think ultimately some of the greatest scenes we've ever had in film, some of the most memorable ones, some of those memorable mo moments in movies and in entertainment history have come from times like that. Have come from times of trial. Have come from times where uh, you know people aren't in the best state of mind, but the work they produce is something that nobody in the right state of mind could have produced. And
yeah,
that's the definition of a fine line.
yeah. What would you say, when you think about directing? Uh, what's the for you personally? What's the hardest part of it? And has it changed over the time you have done multiple projects?
Yeah, I think the hardest part for me is what people consider traditional directing. Um, I think there's like kind of an ongoing debate right now about whether the director should be making the shot list or not, which is really dumb. I think the director should always be making the shot list. Should, they should be storyboarding the whole project. But I guess that's because I believe more in a skeleton crew at the end of the day, anyways. Um, but no, I think. For me, I was always like again, like I worked my way up from editor, then I took on the role of being a DP, and then I moved into directing. And so moving backwards, the hardest part is actually directing characters, like embodying the characters of the original script and learning how to direct that in my own light while still respecting the source material. That's been the
Yeah.
hardest part for me. And that's only because I've been moving backwards. Like in traditional directing, um, oh, it's so cute. Um,
Sorry about that.
no, you're all good. In traditional directing, it's like you're almost going in reverse order, where it's like you really have to understand a grasp of like people's story and the characters in order to direct people. But then you usually have a problem with blocking and figuring out how shots are done and trusting your DP, but then also like looking over their shoulder and figuring out, okay, like what is the perspective of the scene actually going to look like? How do we tell this story?
Yeah.
And so I can't say there's a better way to approach it, but for me, I can't imagine any other way than doing it in reverse. I like the fact that I learned how to shoot the film before I learned how to exactly direct the cast in the film because it gives me a little bit of an insight into the mind's eye of what the viewer will actually be seeing. And I understand from an editing perspective, like what plays on film. Um, so I can say things like, okay, you're going to look stupid and silly, but please over exaggerate this part because I know on the film it's going to look incredible. Like I know that when you open the door and you give that shocked reaction to your son's suit that was really your father, like his father's, right? That he just tried on out of the closet. That although it looks crazy, although it looks like you're going like, on set, like no sane person would do that. I know it's going to look good in the end. And I would much rather prefer that than the alternative, which is being in the blind.
Yeah. So what about the what comes to actors, particularly the biggest surprises has there been okay, uh, some issues that okay, you didn't expect that, it goes that way. Of course it depends on a person, but has there been like, whoa, uh, okay, I didn't expect this. uh,
Um, I don't think there's something I didn't expect. I mean, you're constantly getting like incredibly dynamic performances from your actors in ways that like shock you and like you totally don't expect and you totally don't originally see in the character, but it completely changes your perspective on like how the film should be made. This
mhm,
happens all the time. This is not just like a once in a movie endeavor. This will probably happen like 8 to 9 times during one film project, especially if you're shooting a feature, probably even more. Um, the character is constantly evolving and should constantly evolve with the actual actor. I think again, like the hardest part for me, and I'll never say this on set because as a director, again, you have to feed into that delusion. Like you have to the actor cannot be, telling you things. You have to be telling the actor things. You need to be answering every single question. And that's not like an ego thing or anything. That's a sanity thing. People want to know that like there's somebody they can go to with all of their questions. That this whole crazy idea is held up by something. You have to be that something. I think hardest part for me is trying to figure out what the right words are to say to the actor, and I usually get to them. Um, but you have to let them find it. It isn't as easy as like, um, finding the perfect words to put down on paper, right? Because like those characters are closed in your mind. You're adding a whole different dimension when there's the visual component, right? They might not be able to make the face that you imagined in your mind, for the character or the way you wrote it exactly, because the way you wrote it doesn't translate to real life. And so with that respect, you have to kind of also respect the immense study of a good actor, right? Their ability to read into the character, to understand it from a different perspective, and then to sort of merge that perspective with what you ultimately need out of the project. And that internal battle with the actor, that they have when you're doing like multiple different takes of the same scene and you're struggling to find that exact moment, that exact face, um, that exact reaction, it it's interesting. It's interesting. Sometimes there's things you absolutely cannot say. Um, like sometimes you have to just say, okay, guys, we're gonna take a 10-minute break. Here, read over the script. We're gonna try to do this a different way. I want you to try to do it your own way. You have sometimes you have to leave it at that and then figure out where it's gonna go. Sometimes you have to let with constraints you have to let some improvisation take place, especially in comedy. I usually shoot dramas, so I haven't really experienced it that much. But in comedies, often the best scenes are improvised, because
Yeah.
the dynamic will just come off better. But in dramas, sometimes the lines don't work with the actors. Sometimes there's just a different way they would say it. Sometimes it just doesn't make sense with the context of the scene. Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes the slight twang in their accent makes the whole line sound terrible and you have to let them say it how they want to say it, and
Yeah.
get to the same outcome. Remember, like it's important to remember as a director that the ultimate feeling in the audience, in their core, when they're watching the film, is the most important part of what you do. It's
Yeah.
not the lines on the page. It's not.
Yeah.
Um, it's Robin Williams at the end of at the end of Good Will Hunting say, "You stole my line," right? Like no, nobody would have written that in. Nobody.
Yeah.
The perfect writing for that is just to stare at the letter and smile and walk away. But that just didn't play into like the subtle repressed comedy that he fed into that entire film. And so because of that, the ending is incredible. Um, you have to let moments like that happen, but you can't let it derail the entire shoot. And so it's playing with
Yeah.
that. It's all, and then sometimes it is actually saying the right words at the right time. Like it is sometimes like digging deep within yourself and figuring out what the character ought to be. And I just saw the Scorsese documentary. Scorsese told Leo in The Aviator, um, uh, when he's behind the door and he's like completely naked in the theater, like slowly going insane, and he's talking to his, I believe, old lover through the door. He couldn't exactly get the words right. Like he couldn't. He had the lines down. He's looking at DiCaprio, but he couldn't exactly get to what he wanted to see on film of like this guy who's so clearly deluded, but still has this remnants of love. And I forget what he said, but um, sometimes you have to put the actors in the right space to give the right performance to find it for themselves. And
Yeah.
it might be as easy as just like, imagine that imagine a time you've been through an immense loss, right? Like that's like the most simple example, but it's usually something pretty complex. But you have to create that hypothetical that connects back to their real life, or puts them in a completely different space so that you can get something new. Um, that's a gift.
Yeah.
And it's something you constantly have to evolve into, and you constantly have to learn from your cast members what makes them tick in some respect. You know, directing is both an understanding of the characters and an understanding of your cast, and merging those two worlds together.
Yeah. Yeah, these are really interesting because uh, when I joined the acting coaching in 2020, uh, right from the very first session, I realized, oh, improvisation, oh, that's really for me. I absolutely love it. And the more I practice, I did things, I realized, okay, for me personally, I'm in my comfort zone if I improvise. That's like I'm like a little kid in a candy store. But then, uh, for some actors, uh, I guess if one doesn't have so much experience yet, they are so touched. Okay, what are their lines on a script? And also for me, it was a surprise that the first project, the director, it was a kind of okay, me loving the improvisation, and I'm just thinking, okay, as long as the end result is what I want. Uh, I don't care, if the lines are very much different. Uh, and the other one, okay, it's the Bible. It's the Bible. So interesting situation, and but uh, uh, good learning road. That okay. Mm, how to deal with the actors, and especially actors that okay, and what I have in my mind, the coaching, that when you take up some elements from sports coaching, and how athletes are preparing themselves for the big events, especially similar kind of approach, that can lead absolutely wonderful thing. And it's harnesses the actors, but
It's not about that,
yeah,
yeah.
that's it. This is really interesting. That
It's a lot like sports, actually.
yeah, yeah,
You're very no, you're very on point because, like, yeah, a coach has to bleed into that delusion a little bit. Like, coach doesn't play. Like,
mm,
that's like in theory, he shouldn't garner any respect from his athletes. A lot of times, like, the coach has never even like played the sport professionally at the same level as the athletes.
yeah,
But it's their ability to be larger than life.
yeah,
Um, that's so crucial. It's that ability to build up such resilience to the point where, like, your own your own team members, your own athletes can't come to you and be like, I can't do this. They feel ashamed.
mm,
So they push themselves to ultimately have that incredible performance. With exceptions, of course. I mean, I think there are some times where an actor just really is not cut out for a particular role, and they do need to come to you, and you should probably realize that.
yeah.
Specifically thinking about Back to the Future, but God, they shut that whole movie, and then they had to redo the whole thing. Thank God they did, though, because but I honestly I couldn't imagine that. Wow. I mean, God, that's such a uh, deteriorating feeling, having shot so much of that, just like looking at it, realizing, oh, this isn't it. And the bravery, quite honestly, not just to go to the actor, but to go to the studio and say, we're going to need an extension on our budget. We have to reshoot this because it just isn't the story we want to tell.
Yeah.
And I honestly praise the people at Universal for not just being like tough luck. I mean, honestly, I might have said that, like, you mean you only really get like one shot to make a film,
Yeah.
much less two on a crazy idea like that. So no, yeah, it's certainly incredible.
Yeah. So, okay. Do you work on at the moment any projects? What's the next one?
The next one, I don't know. I think I'm actually gonna take a break for a little bit and write. Um, right now we're in the process of editing that film I was talking about, The Blue Suit. We don't know when that's gonna come out. That's probably gonna go through the festival circuit, which means that once I'm done editing it, I will be on to the next thing. Like I
Yeah,
said, I don't know. I'm not very interested in the festival thing. But I can't really
yeah,
tell anybody that because then people will be like, well, what are you even doing this for or something? I don't know.
yeah,
Film has to make money, you know what I'm saying? So, you but yeah, the next thing I'm probably going to be doing is writing my own screenplay.
yeah.
Um, Working on that. I have a rough outline right now, and I'll probably spend the next. I'll probably try to start the process of that production next summer. But I really got to get that down. That is going to be more of a personal story. I was sort of alluding to that. Um, but the story I'm writing is very much connected to my own life, and it is something I could see writing, directing, and editing.
Ah, that's cool. By the way, where did you come by the idea for this? This project. What you've been working on. What is still coming up.
The blue suit, yeah,
Yeah,
it's my
Bluetooth.
incredible. I'm actually a DP and editor on this film. I'm not the director. The director
Uh-huh.
is Henry Franklin. He also wrote the film.
Hmm.
He's an incredible writer. Um, he's from Penn. He's awesome. He wrote the story. He came to me with it. It's very different than the other scripts he's written, and I was just immediately captivated by it. Our producer Charlie was also immediately captivated by it. We're like, we have to make this film. And so we've all been a pretty dynamic trio in getting this thing up and running and shooting it over this fall. Um, but yeah, no, I mean, we were just so drawn to it. I can't tell you what it is. It's a mix between the fixation on sentimental value and the million shots that came into my head as I was reading the script. I thought that Henry has such a great way of writing. Um, often there's a lot to be desired out of a script, especially when you go into like the storyboarding phase and figuring out how you're exactly going to configure the shots in the film, especially when you have that, you know, director of photography editing connection um, to lean on. But I found this one to be quite easy because it wasn't like he was calling out shots in the script, but the imagery was so great that I could just picture the film in my head as if I had written the script. Like it just felt right there. And I didn't have to do much translation. And I really like that. And I think that's why I was so convicted to make this movie. It felt like right after I read the script that I could make the film.
Ah, cool. Cool. So, what about what would you like to do if you have all the resources in the world? Or what's your dream project? Let's say in the near future, what would you
I don't
like
know,
to make?
give everyone great, accessible healthcare. No, I'm just kidding. No, that I mean, actually, that is the real answer. If I could just do anything with all the money in the world, it seems like the biggest problem in our world right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but dream project. I think it's the script I'm writing right now. I think I'm gonna be incredibly obsessed with making this film. It's so grounded um in the life I've lived so far, and I can't imagine. I've had the story in my head for like a decade almost, and it's so rooted in the experiences of my own mother and my experiences moving around a lot as a kid, and I can't imagine dying without making this film. I think that would be a tragedy. And so I think I would make this one. I know it's so short-sighted. Um, and I think that's also bleeds into a little bit of how I operate. Like I very much do focus on the next thing. I have the big picture in the back of my head, but it's murky. It's out of focus. Um, and I very much keep things in front and center. Yeah, hopefully that's a good answer.
Yeah. So actually, now I got the before we end, nice bridge, because you mentioned, I know that you are into healthcare. So you also do health tech. So I think, can you tell us about that, because that's really interesting.
Yeah, I'll go into it briefly. I don't want to put the viewers to sleep. Um,
Uh,
but no, I've always been obsessed with storytelling. I think a great way to get people more engaged in their healthcare is to tell a better story. Healthcare often tells a really scary, d disdain and removed story, and that disassociates a lot of people from their current system. Whereas your relationship with your health plan should be the best it can possibly be because it should carry you through your whole life. Um, and so, pulled by that conviction, while I was making short films in middle school, I was also doing science fair projects where I was building medical devices. Like I've just always been obsessed with healthcare and film.
hmm,
I think there's a through line there with storytelling. Um, but yeah, that's where my head's been at. Recently I've been working on this startup sort of engineering endeavor called MetaBound. It's automating the process of care managers. So these are people that help manage at-risk patients. So think like congestive heart failure and COPD at larger health insurance providers here in America. Um, I don't know if you know what that is. It's not a great system, but it's all we got. Um, I think we all aspire to some sort of European healthcare model, but here in America, it's very, very expensive. But
yeah,
um, a lot of the incentives of health insurance companies is to drive down the cost of care because that ultimately drives down their risk. And
yeah,
so the care managers, what they're supposed to do is constantly reach out to these patients and engage them and ultimately keep them out of the ER, right? Because they're high
yeah,
risk. Well, we've been playing around with the idea of so these care managers are mentally swamped. They're handling like thousands of patients. We've been playing around with some prototypes and putting those into the field that help them manage a lot more of these patients and understand their individual needs a whole lot better in a way that makes people feel more connected to that system. And
yeah,
we're still developing out that with our initial partners and making it more scalable so that more health insurance providers can use this type of technology. But we're very excited about the prospects. I think for the first time in like 20 years, we could really see a change in how we engage with our health system, which is
yeah,
super cool.
yeah. That
Isn't
is
it
exciting. Yeah,
crazy? Isn't it crazy I can
yeah.
go between the two? I could start talking about film right now. It's it's
Uh,
it's
uh,
so ingrained in how I am. It's just I
yeah.
know healthcare and film seem like so different columns,
Yeah, but
but for
they
me,
are
it's like
actually
it's one
not,
thing.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
yeah, because I got so excited, when I saw your profile. Hey, there's another one because I have done over 30 years in healthcare.
yeah.
The so and I don't see them, really separate. They actually feed each other. And what I found, basically in 2021, and especially 2022, doing exactly the same thing what I was doing on a healthcare side, developing, okay, uh, uh, functional way to do things, get from point A to point Z as fast as possible, as less pain as possible, yeah. So actually they, match nicely,
They're the same. It's making people feel heard.
yeah,
Like the problem with healthcare is the silent struggle.
yeah,
It's the pain that we don't express. It's the variables we're not collecting. It's ultimately the intervention that can save somebody's life.
yeah,
And it's the same thing we aspire to in filmmaking in a ton of respects. It's hearing that voice, but not only that, but telling that story in a way that ultimately benefits your health to leads to better outcomes at the end of the day. And whether that's through mental health, which is starting to see some success in that space. I think digital health is making huge strides in that regard. Um, or whether that's more on the medical and at risk side, which is a little bit harder because it's a lot more technical and people are kind of scared of that, to be quite honest. But medical devices and wearables are helping a lot with that. So Yeah, we're starting to see a shift, but
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, it's weird that I we both see that connection, but I guess that
yeah,
makes this a little bit less crazy.
yeah, yeah. But I tend to say that I don't want to be normal. I like to be crazy, so it's more fun. It's life is very exciting. Adventure, at least, come on, so it's cool, Tom. Okay, before we wrap up, okay, if you are not in an extremely hurry, we can talk a little bit after recording, but what would you say, especially younger people who are contemplate? Yeah, I would like to do films, something around films. What would you say as an advice that okay, encourage them?
Um, it is the same advice everybody else will give. It's go out and shoot a film. Just go do it. I mean, I feel like a broken record because like you watch any film interview and they'll tell you this, but like go, you have a phone, like you live in the most powerful time to be a filmmaker ever. Ignore the noise, go out and shoot a film, lean into whatever the weird thing that you like and make more of it. Don't feel like you're stealing anything. Like great artists steal, that's like the famous Picasso quote. It's true, right? Like nothing is absolutely original. We pull from everything else, and eventually you figure out your own style and all of that. So and also
Yeah,
don't feel like what you're doing is any different than what Martin Scorsese did or what any other great director did. They all started from somewhere. All of their original films were terrible, um, or at least from their perspective, right? But don't worry about how it's going to be perceived later on. Worry about what you can do right now. What is the best you can do right now? What is the best film you can go out and make right now?
yeah,
And do it. And do it however you want to do it. Do it a vertical format. Do a micro drama. I don't know where those are going, but maybe it's the future of cinema. Who knows? Maybe
yeah,
go out and shoot a feature. Download the Blackmagic app on your phone. It shoots much better video if you have the storage. But yes, go out and shoot something. Don't worry about equipment because the film you shoot now will raise enough capital for the next film that you need to shoot and whatever, and just keep going. Because honestly, like on top of that, don't do the thing that like startup founders do, where like they think they have to go out and raise VC or like the equivalent in film. You don't need it.
yeah,
You can do your own.
yeah,
You can do it. You can do it all on your own. I have this conviction right now that I believe that studios are adopting a lot of these like AI resources that aren't Storyara, and and that they're leaving behind a lot of creatives that aren't just going to die and go away. They're going to start their
yeah,
own production companies, and that indie filmmaking is about to massively take over
yeah,
the industry. I think I mean, you could count on Nora maybe, but like, I think we're a few years away from a true indie film winning the Palme d'Or. Um, I think indie filmmakers are just absolutely in the long term going to leave a lot of studio productions in the dust. And so
yeah,
right now, even though the industry seems in a downturn, even though there's no funding for it right now, is the best time to get into film. Just go out and make something that you can be proud of. And
yeah,
honestly, you don't have to show it to anybody. Just finish it and go make the next time.
yeah, yeah. That's I agree 1000%, and it's fun to think about my I got raggedy ass pilot film project. That money I spent for that pilot project, I could do easily at least three feature films. So think about that was 7 grand, 7,000
Yeah,
euros, which is uh, in retrospect really dumb thing to do in the beginning. So really start with the cell phone or something. Forget about the equipment. You can modern day cell phones. You can visually, technically make it great stuff. And okay, if you want to make it better, okay, have a exterior audio recording. And remember this, how uh, Christopher Nolan the following movie they made with their friends. Was it took like a year to make black and white thing in the 90s. Uh, uh, they 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 did it really smartly. They put a lot of effort for the opening scene and the last one. They are technically, the best ones of the film, and the rest, it's a different. So, and fun thing, I can say from my own part that I announced this week that there's going to be a second film, which is going to be a feature film coming up next year, uh, uh, for the story, crime drama, which was my pilot project in the first place. We
Cool.
made it in 2021, so and because uh, I have so much fun because I've been telling about that, so for people that in technical speaking, in technical terms, it was really shitty, absolutely terrible. But because I had a good writer who actually wrote the script, okay, we had to change on the run a big chunk of it because of what happened, during that. But uh, some people have been asking, okay, every year that since the publication of it, okay, are you gonna when you gonna do the next one? So actually, there are some people who actually love the story because it's yeah.
Do it. Do it.
So
I mean,
yeah.
listen, hey, everyone out there, okay? This is the reason why I don't like the festival process either. It's like you spend so much time on the front end and back end of making a movie that you forget that like you should be living most of your life making movies. You have 4,000 weeks, okay? I didn't come up with that. There's an amazing book by it, but it's literally like that's the amount of time you have in life.
Yeah,
Um, and so every week that you spend not on set, not doing something creative, not in the editing room, not writing your screenplay, you are wasting living
very
somebody
true.
else's life. If you
Very
actually want to
true.
do this, you live in the best time to make a film. You spend $7,000 on your pilot. These kids can go out and shoot, 17-hour movies and still have all the storage on their phone for zero instead of, texting their friends or sending streaks on Snapchat. Like, just do it. Do it. You will be You might, I don't know. I was gonna say you might be the coolest kid in school. That's probably not true. Um, but you'll be the coolest kid to me, I think. So just, get ahead of everyone else, breeze past them, do something different. Like if what are you afraid of? Everyone else has lived every other life. Well,
Yeah.
why are you doing this?
No.
And I think the more times you can wake up in the morning and look in the mirror and ask yourself that, um, the better. And there's no kind of conviction like, hauling all kinds of equipment over your back and tripping over yourself, running across, whether it be campus or town or across the state even to go shoot a film with your best friends. So
Yeah. And probably, the crazier the idea you get, it sounds, oh man, it's a crane, incredibly stupid or crazy. Those are usually the best ones. So just go for it. Really go for
go
it.
for it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Um,
Well, this is a really great ending with the stick around after I put the recording off.
no,
Let's
no, of course. I
exchange
have
this.
a little shout out for your listeners though.
Okay, okay, okay. So,
So if you're going to make a film,
yeah.
right? I mentioned the production software that we had, right?
Mm.
I'm not just going to promo it. I'm also going to give you guys 50% off if you use the code HUSTLE. Um, so yeah, if you're going to make a film, if you have a script or you just have some like materials and you want to learn how to get started, we've made it so that in the platform it kind of teaches you how to make a film on a little bit more of a professional level. And so you can either sign up for a pro account with that code HUSTLE, 50% off, or you can just start for free, quite honestly, because we love student work, um, or any work, to be quite honest. So yeah, just a reminder: if you're going to start a production, please use Story.
Yeah, that's it. And have a great weekend. And this was interview of Nick Harty, Indie Media Hustle, episode number 2. We
Hell
are
yeah.
over and out, and but this is merely beginning. Okay.